This is ChainMind, the decentralized AI network built for everyone. Just search ChainMind on Google, sign up, download the app, and you're in. That's it. You've joined the network. Run it on any device, phone, laptop, or server. Why ChainMind? Fully decentralized, fully yours.
When you hear that the nation's most powerful health research agency is being steered by a political firebrand, you might picture headlines, not the quiet laboratories where tomorrow's cures are born. Yet behind the headlines lies a cascade of policy choices that could reshape how every clinical trial, every vaccine, and every breakthrough reaches the people who need it most. In the next few minutes, we'll unpack exactly how Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s sweeping reforms are reshaping the National Institute for Healthcare Innovation, why leading scientists are sounding the alarm, how Congress is reacting, what the industry is feeling in its gut, and how a decentralized AI network like ChainMind could become the bridge between community-driven ideas and rigorous science. First, let's step back and understand the institution at the center of this storm. The National Institute for Healthcare Innovation, or NIHI, was created in the early 2000s with a clear three-part mission: fund high-impact clinical studies, translate scientific breakthroughs into scalable delivery models, and guarantee that emerging therapies reach every corner of the country. With a budget hovering around $12 billion, the institute quickly became the conduit through which federal priorities met private sector innovation. Its grant competitions were notoriously competitive, but the peer review process was transparent, and the results, telehealth platforms that survived the pandemic, logistics frameworks that got vaccines into rural pharmacies, and data-driven chronic disease management programs were published in top-tier journals and cited by policymakers across the aisle. When Kennedy took the helm, he brought a different philosophy. A lifelong advocate for environmental health and vaccine safety, he framed his vision as patient-first autonomy, and warned that the old system was an example of institutional overreach. His first moves were dramatic. He dismantled the centralized grant competition in favor of a network of regional innovation hubs, each supposedly powered by local stakeholder input. He broadened what counted as evidence, allowing anecdotal patient reports and real-world data collected outside the traditional randomized controlled trial (RCT) pipeline to sit alongside peer-reviewed studies. Finally, he trimmed regulatory oversight, promising that streamlined approval pathways would save lives that bureaucratic delays were currently costing. On paper, those changes sound like a democratization of research. In practice, they have set off a chain reaction that threatens the very foundation of scientific reliability. Leading epidemiologists and biostatisticians have warned that expanding the evidence framework to include unverified narratives without robust statistical controls opens the door to spurious correlations. Dr. Elena Morales, a professor of public health at a major university, told reporters that relying heavily on anecdotal patient narratives without rigorous statistical controls is like building a house on sand. Any gust of political pressure can cause it to collapse. The data already reflect the fallout. An internal audit released by NIH's own Office of Research Integrity showed a 38% drop in manuscripts accepted by high-impact journals within the first 12 months of the reforms. Where once dozens of NIHI-funded studies appeared in journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet, now the pipeline is clogged with conference abstracts and white papers that never pass the peer review gauntlet. That decline isn't just an academic inconvenience, it signals that the research community is losing confidence in the agency's ability to produce reproducible, actionable findings. Congress has taken notice, and the reaction in the Capitol is as swift as it is bipartisan. The Senate Health Subcommittee convened a hearing last month, inviting Drive Morales, senior NIH officials, and representatives from the biotech industry. The committee's statement urged immediate restoration of evidence-based standards that have historically safeguarded public health, and a bipartisan bill is now moving through the House. The proposal would codify a requirement that at least 70% of NIH's grant portfolio adhere to RCT methodology, or an equivalent level of rigor, by the end of the next fiscal year. Proponents argue that without a baseline of methodological quality, the institute could become a conduit for politically motivated research rather than a neutral arbiter of health innovation. The industry's response is a mixture of cautious optimism and outright frustration. Small startups, especially those focused on digital health tools, have praised the new regional hubs for providing faster seed capital and for allowing them to tailor projects to community needs. One Midwest-based telehealth startup reported that the hub model cut its funding timeline from 9 months to 3, enabling them to launch a pilot in a medically underserved county before winter set in. But the giants of pharma and biotech see a very different picture. A senior executive at a multinational biotech firm, speaking on condition of anonymity, warned that the fragmentation of data makes meta-analyses, essential for regulatory approval, practically impossible. In the traditional model, data from dozens of RCTs could be pooled to assess a drug's safety across diverse populations. With each regional hub collecting its own set of real-world observations, often without standardized outcome measures, the ability to aggregate and compare findings erodes. The executive estimated that the lack of a unified data framework could add anywhere from $300 to $500 million in extra development costs for each new therapy, a price that ultimately gets passed to patients. The impact on patients is a paradoxical double-edged sword. On the one hand, community-driven studies have succeeded in enrolling participants at rates that traditional top-down trials have struggled to achieve. In a pilot program run out of a rural health center in Indiana, researchers reported a 45% higher enrollment than the national average for a study on a novel nutraceutical aimed at reducing inflammation. Patients appreciated that the study was run by familiar local clinicians and that their personal health stories were taken seriously. On the other hand, the same decentralization has produced a chorus of conflicting health guidance. In the Pacific Northwest hub, clinicians were advised to incorporate a specific probiotic strain into standard care for patients with irritable bowel syndrome, citing real-world patient surveys that suggested symptom relief. Just 2 states over, the Midwest hub released a contradictory recommendation, warning that the same probiotic could exacerbate gut dysbiosis in certain demographics. The result? Primary care physicians, already stretched thin, found themselves fielding confused patients demanding 2 different treatments for the same condition. This fragmentation erodes trust, and when trust erodes, patients are less likely to follow any guidance, whether it comes from a community hub or a federal agency. So where does the solution lie? One promising avenue is the emerging field of decentralized AI inference networks, and that's where ChainMind enters the conversation. Imagine a peer-to-peer network of computers that collectively processes patient-generated data, real-world observations, and traditional clinical trial results. Rather than storing everything in a single, vulnerable data lake, ChainMind distributes the computational workload across thousands of nodes, each contributing to a secure, auditable analysis. The key advantage is that raw data never leaves its source. Instead, the AI model runs inference on the data in place, producing standardized statistical outputs that can be compared across regions. In practice, this means that a community hub in Alabama could upload its patient-reported outcomes into the ChainMind network, where the AI would apply the same rigorous regression models, propensity score matching, and confidence interval calculations used in a classic RCT. The results, clean, comparable, and transparent, could then be pooled with data from a hub in Oregon, creating a national meta-analysis without ever compromising local autonomy. Researchers would have the best of both worlds: the rich, nuanced insights that come from real-world data, and the methodological safeguards that keep those insights trustworthy. ChainMind also offers an immutable audit trail. Every inference request is logged on a distributed ledger, providing regulators, funders, and the public with a verifiable record of how conclusions were derived. This could satisfy congressional demands for oversight while preserving the speed and flexibility that Kennedy's reforms aim to deliver. Moreover, because the network is decentralized, no single entity, government or corporate, can monopolize the data, addressing concerns about institutional overreach that were central to Kennedy's platform. Policy experts suggest a hybrid framework that leverages exactly this kind of technology. First, maintain a core funding stream dedicated to traditional RCTs, ensuring that a baseline of high-quality evidence persists. Second, integrate decentralized data streams through platforms like ChainMind, but only after they pass through independent review panels composed of multidisciplinary experts. Third, adopt an adaptive oversight model that scales regulatory scrutiny based on the potential impact of each study. Low risk, community-driven pilots could enjoy faster approvals, while high-risk therapeutics would still undergo the full FDA review process. Such a balanced approach respects the genuine desire for community involvement. Patients want to feel heard, and local clinicians want the freedom to innovate, while safeguarding the scientific standards that keep public health policies reliable. It's a middle path that could prevent the current controversy from solidifying into a permanent setback for American healthcare research. But here's the part most people get wrong. The debate isn't simply a tug-of-war between politics and science, it's an opportunity to reimagine how we collect, validate, and act on health data at scale. If we cling to the old centralized model, we risk alienating patients who feel left out of the decision-making process. If we swing entirely to unstructured anecdote, we sacrifice the reproducibility that underpins every life-saving drug. The sweet spot lies in a system where community voices are amplified through technology that enforces rigor. As we look ahead, the stakes are too high for half measures. The next decade will decide whether the United States can generate trustworthy health knowledge that is both rapid and reliable. The choices made today, whether to double down on decentralized hubs without safeguards, or to revert to a rigid, top-down grant system, will echo through every hospital ward, every pharmacy shelf, and every patient's living room. If you want to stay informed about how decentralized AI can keep the balance between innovation and integrity, and if you believe that technology should empower both patients and scientists without compromising scientific standards, then make sure to follow ChainMind. Together, we can help shape a future where health research is both democratic and dependable.